So, it looks like June is over. Oh guys, I have messed up this month. So let's talk about June. Let's talk about June. So the month of June rolled round about 30 days ago. I just finished reading 14 books for May, so I was on a pretty good high. I'd done so well. I was so pleased with myself that I was able to read all the books that I set out to read. June was supposed to be the Pan-Am-a-thon, which was a Hunger Games inspired readathon, but it was cancelled. It's been postponed. I'm not sure when it's going to be taking place, if it's going to be taking place, probably later in the year at some point. So I already had all my books looked out for it to fit all the prompts that there was. I think there was about like, what's there, 12 districts, so it was like 12 books, but yeah, so I had like all my books looked out for the prompts for that. So when the readathon was cancelled, I decided then just not to read all the books that I had planned. I thought just in case, I probably, by the time that the readathon does come about again, I will probably have completely changed my TBR, because by that point, I mean, if it's anytime soon, I'll probably go off of the TBR that I had planned, because I don't think I've read any of my books. No, I didn't read any of my books. And I've also now got new books, so I could still possibly change my TBR, but I decided not to read any of those books. So, so I went into June not having anything planned at all. I had no readathons planned. I didn't even really, well, I stumbled upon a few, but none that I was really that interested in. I thought I'll just take a little break this month and just read whatever I want. I had a lot of books delivered from the month of May. I'd got a lot of new books, because before, like for the last few months, books I've been reading were mostly like rereads or children's books, or just books that I had that I wanted to reread, or books that I had, like the Twilight series that I have not yet read. So the books I was reading in the past were all a lot shorter. That's probably how I read 14 books last month. Whereas this month I had no plans, but I also had a lot of books. I bought 21 books in the month of May. I had a lot of deliveries. So with that in mind, June started and I was unsure. I wanted to read more diversely this month because of everything that's been going on, of the kind of shake up in the book community, of everybody kind of realising that we as a community maybe aren't as diverse as we think we are. I know me personally, I saw a post, and I think it was, who was it? Who posted it? Carrie Holt Fletcher, if you know who that is. She's a musical theatre performer, but she's also been like a YouTuber for years. She's also an author now. She put up a post, and it was something along the lines of how she always felt that I don't know if I can find the post, maybe I'll put it here, but she put up something that really resonated with me, and it was all to do with how you think as a reader that you are reading diversely because you don't pick up a book based on who wrote it, the ethnicity of maybe the author, or just what the book's about. You pick up a book because of its story. And I thought, wow, that's so true. That's how I am, like, as a reader. If I'm like browsing the shelves, or I'm on like Amazon or whatever, if I read like the plot summary just to kind of see what a book is about, that's what gets my attention. I don't actively seek out like books by white authors or books by black authors. I'm seeking a story out based on the story. I'm also seeking out the cheap ones. I'm seeking out the books that are on sale. I'm a cheap queen. I'm a cheap queen. I will literally just buy books when they're on offer. So places like The Works are the best for me, that do £3 for £5 on their books. Can't go wrong with that. But anyway, she realised that wasn't good enough. That's not really a good way to think about it, because if you're getting mostly like white books pushed at you, books by white authors or with white protagonists pushed at you the majority of the time, and that's all you're really seeing, of course that's all you're going to end up reading. So I totally see now, thanks to that post that Carrie put on, the error of my ways, that yeah, I wasn't probably reading enough books by black authors or Asian authors, and I probably weren't even reading enough stories with main characters who were of a different race than me. So I realised that now. So I wanted the month of June to be a bit better. I had just got a book order in of a few books that were coming where the characters were people of colour and the authors were people of colour, so I was like, that's great, I can read those. But I started off, I wanted to read a non-fiction story that I've had for years that I was supposed to be reading in the month of May for my the Royal Readathon. I chose it to fit one of my prompts, but I ended up swapping at the last minute. I still haven't finished it. So, but I'm going to include it in this, just to kind of talk about it. But it's the Colour Bar United Kingdom by Susan Williams. And it's the true story of Sir Isaac Kama and his marriage to his wife, Ruth. I was about to say Ruth Wilson. That's an author. That's not. Ruth Wilson? Isn't that that's an actress. Ruth Williams. I am still only like 100 and something pages, 142 pages into this. I just find myself reading it a lot slower pace. I always read non-fiction at a slower pace than I would fiction books. The writing is quite small. I've said this in every video I make, that I judge a book based on size and its writing, and sometimes it puts me off if I'm like... But anyway, so I was wanting to read this book first, so that's probably why I got off to a bad start in June, was because I wanted to read this first. I'm 142 pages into it, and I still have like 200 to go, so... I ended up deciding when I got like halfway into June, or it wasn't quite halfway, but I got like the first 10 days of June or whatever, and I realised I wasn't making a lot of progress with this, so I thought I'm gonna have to start something else. So then I decided to pick up Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name right. Bernardine Evaristo. I apologise. But I decided to read this. I've been wanting to read this for a while. It was the winner of the Booker Prize last year. Joint winner, I think, with Margaret Atwood. I hate when something is a joint winner. Like, it's like, just pick one. Just pick one. I hate ties, but I feel like just pick one. So I wasn't really entirely sure what this was about, but I actually really enjoyed it. So this story is about, there's a lot of different characters. There's like about 12 or so different characters. It's all their different lives and how they intertwine. I really like that idea. I do like a kind of story like that that has lots of different characters and just seeing how all their stories connect. Sometimes I prefer that than just having one main character, because sometimes maybe if you get a main character that you don't 100% like, it can ruin the book for you. Whereas if you have a book that's just filled with characters, guaranteed you're gonna like most of them. You're gonna like at least one of them. But I really enjoyed this book. I really enjoyed most of the characters in this. They were all pretty good. Sometimes I forgot, I think names had been thrown at you earlier in the book, like this person is this person's friend, and then later on I would stumble upon the same names and I was like, wait a minute, we've heard about you. One thing I will say, I was not a massive fan of how this book is written. It took me a little while to get into, but basically, I don't know how I'm gonna explain this. I'm gonna probably just have to show you. The book tends to start with like, so the first chapter is Amma, and I think you can see like Amma's name. Wait, let me just, Amma's name. And then the way it's written, there's like, I just gave myself a paper cut. There's like no punctuation in this book. There was no full stops. There's commas, but there's no full stops. I don't know what this kind of writing style is called. I've never seen this before in my life, but I think it took me a while to get into it because there's like there's no capital letters at the start of a sentence unless it's the character's name, and there's no full stops. So there's a sentence, the sentence ends but there's no full stop, and then the next sentence starts on a fresh line. There are commas used, but I just feel like that the writing style just took me a while. Can you see it? The writing style really just took me a while to get into it, because but once I was into it, like it was fine. It was just the first kind of couple of chapters, it just kind of took me a while. I was a little, not confused. Confused isn't the word, but I didn't really like that kind of writing style as much. I didn't realize how much I would miss a full stop, but there we go. But I don't know what that writing style is called, but it did just take me a little while to get into it. A few of the times I did feel some of the characters got a little bit repetitive. I liked the first few. I liked Amma, and then there was her friend Dominique and her daughter Yaz. I really liked them, so I maybe would have preferred it just if it was like those three, to be honest. But that wasn't so bad, to be honest. That's just me nitpicking. But I gave this book 5 stars, and I really enjoyed it. And I love a story like this, just where all the characters, all their their life and all their stories just connect together, and it's good. It's good fun. So I really enjoyed this. I gave it 5 stars. I just wish there was some full stops in there, but you know, beggars can't be choosers. Next up, after that, I read Queenie by Candice Carty-Williams. This is another 5-star book for me. I really enjoyed it. It is the story of a young woman she works at a magazine, so she's like a journalist. She is on a break with her boyfriend Tom, and she goes on like a lot of dates. She has a lot of like one night stands, and her mental health does take a bit of a spiral just because of everything that's kind of happening in her life. She gets into a lot of situations that just made you grimace. It wasn't very nice. I really enjoy books like this. It's where you have a main character who you relate to, or you love them, and you love kind of going through life with them, and you're seeing the ups and downs of their life. So the story is more character driven, I would say, than plot driven. Obviously there's a lot of plot. Obviously there is plot to the story, but I mean, like when you're kind of just following this character along for the ride. I love stories like that. I really liked Queenie. I loved her friends, apart from Cassandra, but we won't talk about Cassandra. But it was a really good book. There were a few kind of surprises along the way that really caught me off guard. There were a few moments as well. I think this just proves how much kind of, I don't want to say shitty fiction I've read, but it just kind of goes to show you how much kind of cliched stories I've read lately, because there was a character that was introduced, and the moment they were introduced, I was like, oh, here we go, this is going to be the love interest, I betcha, and they're going to end up falling in love, and by the end of the story they'll be together and it'll be happily ever after. But then things just didn't go the way I thought they were gonna, and I was so surprised just by the end how everything played. I was like, yes, thank you God, I finally found a book with like, there was no, I don't want to spoil this, so cover your ears, but it's not going to be too much of a spoiler, but I love that I finally found a book where our main character doesn't just like find a man that's like her Prince Charming and they live happily ever after. Like so many books I'm reading these days where like our main character is like a female and she's maybe got herself into situations or whatever, it's just her life, and you meet, there's like a name thrown at you quite early on and they turn out to be like the love interest, and then they get together and then they'll live happily ever after. It was so nice and refreshing for a change to have all these kind of like male characters thrown at you and you think, is this going to be the one? And then it's not, and it was just great. I really loved that. I love how it ended. As someone who, listen, I love love, okay? I promise I do love love. I think I'm so over romance in books. I'm so sick of it. Unless I'm rooting for the characters, I'm so sick of that same old love. I'm so sick of that same old love. It's just the same. It's always the same, and it does my head in. So it was nice and refreshing. I really enjoyed this book. I loved Queenie. I gave her 5 stars. I loved it so much. I felt for her. I was angry with her. I was mad at her friends. I was happy. It was just great. I really enjoyed this book, and I think you would too. I've been in a total reading slump this whole month of June. It's been terrible. I could just never break out of it. I've just been doing other things, like sitting on Netflix. So I feel like I haven't done an awful lot of reading, and I do most of my reading now through the day, like so when the weather's nice and I'm sat outside, whereas like before I used to do all my reading at night, whereas I'm not doing my reading at night anymore. I'm happily just sitting on my laptop when I'm in bed. So Girl with Another, yeah, it took me a while to read it, and then Queenie, I think I read it in less than a week. I read it in a few days, so that was great. So after I finished Queenie, I decided I was unsure what to read next, so I went through all my kind of new books that I got recently, and I decided to go for one that I was a little bit skeptical about, because just after I put in my order, I saw a review on Instagram. Somebody was doing one of the books that I just bought, and they didn't like it, and their review was not great, and I was like, oh god, I've just bought this book. Thank God I've only paid £2 for it. So I decided to start reading it, and that book is Vox. Now, if you can see my bookmark in there, that's because I've not yet finished it. I'm only 100 pages into it. Am I even 100 pages? I'm not. I'm on page 98. So I just wanted to include this video though, because I've started it, and this video would have been about 2 seconds long. This video would have been 2 minutes long if I only had the other 2 books to talk about. So I'm talking about all the books that I started but maybe haven't finished. I've not DNF'd this. if you know me, you know that I don't DNF books. I like to give every book a fair chance. I will see it through to the end, even if it's absolute garbage. Even though it means that I'm giving up my time to read a garbage book than reading something worthwhile, which deserves my attention. But we give all books a chance here in this channel. But Vox is a dystopian. It's another America-based dystopian where basically I think it's supposed to be like the church again is like taken over, and they've basically made it so that women have no rights. That's the main kind of thing of this book. Is it's the review I saw on Instagram said that it was just trying too hard to be The Handmaid's Tale. And I thought, come on guys, you know, you gotta give books like this a chance. Like when you have one book like The Handmaid's Tale, which is like a dystopian America and women have no rights. But then I kind of started reading it and I thought, yeah, it basically is The Handmaid's Tale, except this time, instead of women being used for as handmaids for breeding, women can't speak. So what it is, we're only a few years into this dystopian, and that's I think what I think it's made me realize that I actually maybe prefer dystopians, sort of like The Hunger Games, where Katniss has grown up her whole life living this way, whereas when it's just a few years and all they're talking about is, I remember when it used to be like this, I remember when it used to be like that. And I don't mind that so much. I don't mind learning about the sort of uprising or when the takeover happened, of when things changed. I don't mind so much learning about that. It's still quite interesting, but I'd prefer it maybe if it was happening like real time, so we were actually seeing like what was happening, and then maybe the book ends with the sort of, I don't know what I'm saying. But basically what it is this time is women have had all their rights taken away. The man of the house is in charge. Women are being fitted with these bracelets. Now I have a lot of issues with these bracelets. Let me tell you something. Okay, so they're getting fitted with these bracelets, and what it is, women are only allowed to speak 100 words per day. Once you hit that 100 word counter, for every time you speak, your bracelet will start to shock you, and as you keep going, your bracelet will the shocks will get progressively worse. So I thought, in theory, that sounds like a good idea. I thought when she first said like they had these counter things on, I thought maybe it was around the neck. So I wondered if it was all to do with maybe vibrations in your neck for when you talk. Like if you go like this, you can feel vibrations in your throat. So I wondered if it was that, but it turns out it's a bracelet, and it's basically synced up to your voice. And I thought, okay, that's okay, but I don't know, that just seemed a little bit problematic to me. And what if someone else sounds like you? What if somebody else sounds like you? And I mean, I don't know, every voice is probably different. What about folk that can do impressions? What if someone did an impression of you right in front of it and your bracelet counter started going boop, 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 and you got shocked? So that I find a little bit problematic, that it's tuned to the sound of your voice. Also, there's supposed to be cameras like everywhere, so it can see, the cameras will see if you are communicating with, like, writing things down. There's no writing equipment anymore. Women are not allowed to write or read. They're not allowed to like write notes. They're not allowed to do sign language. But surely they could like lip read, because just because a camera's on you, you could be talking and they don't know that your counter is maybe at 100 and you're going like this. I don't know. I don't know. But I am only 100 pages in so far, and already I'm finding it a little bit problematic, because our main character, Jean, she's a doctor of some sorts. I'm not quite sure what. We've just had kind of tidbits thrown in, but she's basically been working on a project with her female companion, her female friend, and their project's obviously been cancelled because this uprising has happened. I'm calling it an uprising. Is it really an uprising? This takeover has happened. There's like a reverend who's in charge, basically. There's a president of the United States, and then there's this reverend who comes on TV all the time and talks, and he's obviously part of the problem, or he's part of it. From what I've read so far in my first 100 pages, is that the president's brother has had a skiing accident and something's wrong with him. I don't know if he just can't communicate. I don't know if he's had a stroke. He must have a brain injury. And the reverend has come to her house to ask her to continue with her work to help him get better. And I was like, okay, hold on a minute, sir. You have been preaching and preaching to get women to have no rights, to have no jobs, to work in the home, etc., etc., and look after her family. Why the hell now are you having to come get a woman to fix the president's brother? Do you not know any male doctors? I'm pretty sure Jean isn't the only woman who could do this job. She's not the only person who could do this job. I'm sure if you went to the UK or China or Germany, you will find a man who could do that job as well. I'm so disappointed that we're only 100 pages in. We've just been told what this new dystopian America is like, that the religion has basically taken over. Women have no rights. They're not allowed to speak more than 100 words a day. But now, because the president's brother has had an accident, he can't speak, he can't communicate, and he's very important to the president because we all know that he secretly is the one that runs the country or some sort of shit like that. He's like the president's right hand man or whatever. You need someone to help him, and now you're going against your morals, your idea. You're going to ask a woman to now take up her job again and help him. I'm sorry, that's a weak plot to me. That's weak. I refuse to believe that somebody who is so set in their ways about how they feel life should be run, that they were able to convince the entire country to change their way of life, is now going against his own morals and asking this woman to continue with her work. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. No. So I'm only on page 98. Jean is refusing to do it. Good on you, Jean, but we all know how it's going to go in the end. There would be no plot otherwise, and there's still about 200 pages to go, so you know damn well she's going to consent to this. And if she does it, she's being allowed to have her bracelet taken off. And I was like, but that's not fair. People would, I feel like other women would then be like, well, why does she not have to wear a bracelet? Why is she not got a counter on? I think as well, it's made me realise just how much books like The Handmaid's Tale and this, I don't like it when it is about oppressing women. I don't like that. I don't like books like that. I saw a discussion on Twitter the other day that was saying about how women are treated in fantasy, and a lot of the time I feel like maybe men, I'm saying men, it probably is just men, it'll be women too, but I feel like in fantasy for too long we've just let it be that, oh, because women were treated badly back in those days, in the olden times. And that's like, yeah, that's fair enough. If you're maybe writing historical fiction, that is fair enough. That's how you want to go. But nowadays, in fantasy, you're making up your own world. You're creating your own world. I'm pretty sure for a change up, it could be that there doesn't have to be women basically only being used as baby makers and brothel workers. I'm so sick of it. That's kind of why I've went off Game of Thrones a little bit. I'm just so sick of how the women are in the books and in the TV show. Even Cersei Lannister, as badass as she was, even she was just kind of just as bad. But I could get into a whole rant about women in fantasy, but I feel like, yeah, women in dystopian, if it's gonna be they're being oppressed and literally told they cannot speak, I don't know. I just feel like I don't like reading about it. I really don't. Because I feel like as women, we have come a long way from where we were about 100 years ago. But in some cases, that is still a long way to go. To get equal pay, to get equal right. Maybe some people are still pretty misogynistic. So there's still a long way to go. So I don't really like reading about it, like backtracking and books like these. So I'm already over it. I just don't really like reading about it. I should have realised that though. I read the back of the book and it did tell me all I needed to know. I thought, okay, this sounds like women have been oppressed. There's gonna be some sort of uprising with them. They're gonna be totally badass and take over and defend their rights or whatever, reclaiming their voices. However, I feel a bit disappointed that it's less of our main character. I don't know. I haven't read much of it, so I can't really speculate. But I feel like already the sheer fact that nothing has really happened. Our girl Jean has done nothing so far except just explain what happened in the world and sort of talk about her life a little bit. But now it's like the guy, one of the guys that's in charge or is responsible for the world we live in, he's the one that's coming offering her the job. I don't know. And I lost my bookmark. That would have been a disaster. I mean, I'll persevere with it, and I'll probably talk about it again in my July wrap up if I finish reading it in July. Finally, another book I just wanted to touch upon. I was also doing a reread of The Great Gatsby for a classical book club that I joined. I didn't actually finish it. Oops. I left it so late. I started reading it on the Sunday and our discussion of the book was that night. So I mean I remembered most of the book because I'd read it before, but I read about I got like halfway into it. I'm probably just gonna, I was reading an ebook of it. I don't have a physical copy, so I'm probably gonna persevere with that and just keep reading it, but I wasn't gonna include it in like any of my kind of wrap ups, but I thought I would just mention it. But I'm not including it in like my Goodreads book goal thing because I'm just kind of reading it quickly, and it's not a very long book. I didn't read it when I was supposed to, but I'll just finish reading it because I started it, but oh well. So I didn't do very well this month at all. I finished 2 books, started 2, and I've been persevering with 1 that I've had for years. So all in all, we're doing great. Quite a come down from last month, so that's disappointing. But oh well. So I'm just gonna wrap this video up because it already got really, I mean, this might be one of my longest videos ever when I do a wrap up, and I only had 2 books that I read. How is that possible? I was talking too much, that's why. So thank you so much for watching this video, this stupidly long video, and I shall see you on my next one, whatever that may be. Check out my Instagram and my Twitter if you feel like it. I sometimes talk about books on there, sometimes I don't talk at all. So check them out if you feel like it. Yeah, I shall see you in my next video. Here's a fun little story time just to kick this off. I decided I was gonna film my mid-year book freakout tag today. So yesterday I sat on my computer, went through my notes because I had a list of the prompts and I had a list of the questions and my books that I chose for them, and I then checked my files and it turns out I've already filmed the video. I filmed it last week and I have no memory of this. I don't remember doing it. I know I filmed 2 videos on the same day. I did my bath time book tag on the same day, so I did it first and then I knew I filmed another it sounds silly. I knew I filmed a second video after I did my bath time book tag. I knew I did a second one. I think I just forgot what it was, and it turned out it was my mid-year freakout tag. So, oh well. I've already done it, so that's great. I'm ahead of schedule, so I'm probably going to upload that as well at some point. So, thank you so much for watching this video. Peace out, homies.